Hi, I'm Jane. I assume that you're here because you miss Kellogg's Croutettes stuffing mitts as much as I do. I've been experimenting with the recipe for a couple of years now since they stopped making it, and I hope you enjoy it. It turns out that probably the main ingredient, as it is with most stuffing, is sage. So we're going to start with 2 teaspoons of ground sage. One and a half teaspoons of ground thyme, which I cannot find. You want to get the ground thyme instead of the regular leaves because it just goes on better. You can sort of estimate if you like. 1 teaspoon of ground marjoram, which this is not ground marjoram. You can just use the regular leaves. So we got 1 teaspoon of that, and half a teaspoon of crushed rosemary leaves, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, which gives it a little bit of its spicy flavor, a tablespoon or so of dried parsley. I shouldn't do it this way, but I find it's easier to use your hand and just crumble it up. And a little bit of salt to taste. Very small pinch of salt. Then you want to mix this all together. This is probably enough for 1 chicken. I usually do double the recipe, and then I keep the mixture in its own little bottle, and I label it Croutettes seasoning. Now we need to cut the bread into cubes, and the kind of bread that you want to get is something that's has a lot of texture. This is an Italian bread called ciabatta, which I find works really well. And I happened to get it in a store that would pre-slice it for me, so I'm halfway there. Take a couple of the slices and cut it into strips. And you probably want to get, half-inch cubes, so then you turn it this way and cut the cubes. Some of them probably won't be perfect cubes, and that doesn't really matter. Now you don't have to cut off the crust first, because the idea is to toast the bread and make it into croutons anyway. I guess if you prefer, you can remove the crust. And I am not using the end piece because this is really tough and hard to cut. So I probably won't use that. You can also use French bread if you like, or if you really like the taste of a darker bread, you could use that. I just would not use regular like Wonder Bread because that would make your stuffing really soft. And when you get your pan filled up, you kind of spread them out in an even layer. Now here is just your choice as to what kind of oil to use. I use peanut oil because it doesn't have a strong flavor. If you like the strong flavor of olive oil, by all means go ahead and use that. Or you could even use butter. So I just pour a little bit on. You can use your hands and just kind of coat it. This will help the spice mixture to stick. And I'm going to go ahead and shake the spice mixture on. Trying to get all of it. And I'll just move that around a bit more. And you get a nice scent of sage, kind of a green from the celery flakes. Now I'm going to put them in a 350-degree oven for 10 minutes. Now you bake them at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. While the croutons are baking, if you're planning on making stuffing, you can heat the chicken stock and the butter in a saucepan. And I'm going to use about 1/4 of a cup of butter. And 1 cup of chicken stock. And just put it on low until the butter melts. Now you take the baked croutons, put them in a big bowl. They should be slightly crisp, but still a little bit moist inside. If you're not sure, you can always taste one. Now take your broth mixture and just pour it over the croutons while tossing them lightly with your wooden spoon. And you can wait a few seconds until this absorbs most of the liquid, and also until it cools off enough so that you can stuff the bird. For this part of the video, I am definitely putting an apron on. It can get a little messy. Now I've taken the bird out of its packaging. This is a chicken, but a turkey is basically just the same thing, only bigger. So what you want to do is take it out of the packaging, maybe rinse it off. Inside is the neck and the liver. One of these is the heart. These are the gizzards. I don't see the heart. And you want to take those out. You can use these to make extra broth. Then what I usually do is I lean the chicken up against the side of the pan, and you can, if the stuffing's still hot, you can use a measuring cup or some other kind of scoop and just scoop it in. You want to kind of mash it down a little bit, and you can use a spoon if you like, but I'm just going to use my hands and get as much of the stuffing in there as I can. There's actually more room than you think there's going to be. A lot of people will fold this over and tie the two legs together, which you can do if you like. You can also stuff the other end of the chicken, which there's a little opening right here. Put a little bit of that in there. And that worked out to be about the right amount. I'm using a stainless steel roasting pan, which has a cover, and therefore there's no need to baste the bird. It just retains all of its juices in the bottom of the pan as it cooks. And I'm going to cook this for probably an hour and a half at 350. Now if you were using an open pan, you would want to cover it with a tent of foil so that the chicken doesn't burn. But I find that these are retain the taste of the bird the best anything I've ever used before. So I always use a stainless steel roaster. When the chicken's at 185 degrees and the stuffing is 165, you can remove it from the oven. The bird's a delicious golden brown, and serve it up to your family. That's what brings them to the table.